Shame on you, foolish African. How dare you? 70 years of independence and you are buying petrol and that you produce petroleum. If you have the economies of scale, we'll be able to beneficiate and produce diesel, produce oil, petrol, iron and steel class and so on. Why we need to do this? The major argument given against beneficiaries is that we don't have the critical mass. We don't have the market. We don't have the technology. We don't have the money. When you pool our resources together, the money will be there and we'll be able to, the market will be there. You can then talk to China, not as South Africa, but as SADC, as the FTA area. Why am I saying this? Look at those economies. China, 1.3 billion people, GDP $11 trillion. That's an economy. India, 1.2 billion people, GDP $2.5 trillion. That's an economy. The US, 3.5 million people, GDP $19 trillion. Shame on you, Malawi. Shame on you, Zimbabwe. You are not an economy. You are a little village. South Africa, you are not a brick. Unless you go to the BRICS as SADC, as COMESA, as the FTA, you don't belong to the BRICS. Those are the numbers. Look at our potential as Africans. The African Continental Free Trade Area, 1.3 billion Africans, GDP $2.3 trillion. Now we are discussing. Can you imagine if we had to go and say, here I come, Madam China, here I come, Madam India, I'm the African. I speak on behalf of 1.3 billion Africans. I have a GDP of $2.3 trillion. Can we talk? They will talk to you not out of love, out of economics. Here I come. I present a market of 1.3 billion Africans. I have a GDP behind me of $2.3 trillion. Can we discuss? They will entertain you. The Americans, the Chinese, the Indians will fellowship with you, not out of love, out of economics. This is where we need to get to.
Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Larry, and I want us to watch this video from Arthur Mutambara. Well, Arthur Mutambara is very furious with African leaders. He even went ahead and said that our African leaders are cowards. Now, I want us to watch this video to why he chose to shame our African leaders, and then I'll be back with more comments.
Now, here's the problem. When we are successful as the African Union, when you have the United States of Africa, there will be one president in the whole continent. Now, tell those African leaders. There will be no president in Malawi. There will be no president in Zimbabwe. There will be no president in South Africa. Maybe the guy will be from Cameroon. Cyril Ramaphosa will be Minister of Tourism for Africa. Is he ready? Emerson Mnangagwa will be Minister of Chiefs for Africa. Is he ready? Mutharika will be a chief. So the African leader is the stumbling block. They want to be president of starving people. America has 300 million people and a GDP of $19 trillion. They have one president, they're doing just fine. China, $11 trillion, population 1.2 billion people, one president, and they're doing just fine. So it's possible for this whole continent to be run by one cabinet with one president. But the current leaders, little Botswana, little South Africa, are not ready. So they talk regional integration, they don't action it. So Nkrumah was right, Gaddafi was right, that we must move quickly. There's no such thing as a free lunch. As you embrace regional integration, you lose elements of national sovereignty. There will be no president, but people will be living better lives. What's wrong with that? So those are some of the dynamics among these African leaders, that they'll pay lip service to regional integration. They're not prepared to pay the political costs. And then the people will do much better in a continentally integrated country. Those are some of the issues about regional integration, why it doesn't happen. As I go to the next set, I want to emphasize some points raised by Professor. Why is integration not working? Sovereignty is the big issue. People emphasize national sovereignty. My country, my Nigeria, my Malawi, my little Zimbabwe. We must think about the continent. You know, just to challenge you, you know, you must say, I'm an African first. A citizen of SADC second, a South African third. I'm an African first. A citizen of ECOWAS second, a Ghanaian third. But you can't because you're so stuck to your national flag, national anthem, national basketball team, national soccer team, national. We are nationally wired as citizens and as leaders. So it's a constraint. You can't fully embrace integration unless you say the nation state is so yesterday. Regional integration is the way to go. The nation state is so yesterday. Continental integration is the way to go. And I told you the president, Muswati in Swaziland, wants to be king. He's just renamed the country to Iswati. He's not ready to give up on national sovereignty. Ramaphosa has just gotten into power. He wants to enjoy his presidency before he becomes the minister of tourism for Africa. So they will talk it. They will talk, then they go back to the nation state. How many times have you heard them in parliament say, our SADC budget, our contribution to the AU, the Agenda 2063, they don't believe in regional integration. Krumah, what did Krumah say? Let's go back to Krumah. And I'll quote Krumah. We as Ghanaians are prepared to surrender our sovereignty in part or in total in pursuit of African unity. Close quote. In 1960, when they wrote their constitution. We are prepared to surrender our sovereignty in part or in total in pursuit of African unity. How many Africans can speak like that right now? We as South Africans are prepared to surrender our prosperity in part or in total in pursuit of African prosperity. Are you ready? Or we are chasing the other Africans out of South Africa? The visionaries of the 60s were thinking Africa. What else did Nkrumah say? The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked to the independence of the rest of the African continent. Close quote. We must die a little so that South Africans can be free. We must die a little so that Rhodesia can be free. This man, Ben Bella from Algeria, was talking about dying for South Africa to be free, dying for Rhodesia to be free. We don't have men and women of that caliber anymore. We have midgets masquerading as leaders, intellectual midgets. It's very difficult to integrate unless the psychology of our leaders is the psychology of Pan-Africanism, of regional integration, and make sure that on balance, when we work together as Africans, the quality of life is going to improve. But there might be no president. It's okay. There might be no vice president. It's okay. The African will have a quality of life comparable to Japan, to the Americans, to Europe, and so on. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's a cost, there's a price to pay for regional integration. We must be prepared. Remember, die a little. That's a sacrifice. He's saying he's prepared to die. Ben Bella was saying, let's die a little. Nkrumah was saying, we are prepared to give up our sovereignty. He was saying his independence is meaningless. That's the language which is missing now, and that's why integration is tough. Source of funds, he or she who pays the paper calls the tune. You can't have the fourth industrial revolution or industrialization funded by the EU or funded by the British or the Americans. That's why I'm emphasizing pulling our resources together so we fund our own projects. We fund our own infrastructure plans. We fund our own industrialization. The African can only industrialize against the interests of the West. Black man, black woman, you are on your own. Biko was right. So yes to donations, yes to aid, but it's unsustainable. We must fund our own activities using our gold, our platinum, our diamonds, but more importantly, when we put them together, they'll be much more powerful and we can negotiate better. Another point raised by Professor Mbo. You go and negotiate as Kenya, as Zimbabwe, as Malawi. You get shortchanged. When you negotiate as COMESA, negotiate as the FTA area, negotiate as the African continent, you extract better deals from China, from India, from America. And then you can raise the resources to pay for your development. The aid and donations are not sustainable. The future of Africa, 3 major pillars. The key driver is going to be technology. You engineers, you technologists are a key pillar in achieving the promised land in Africa. The 4th industrial revolution is a major pillar in driving the African continent. Continental integration is another major pillar of the African dream. Decolonized thought leadership. Get that? Thought leadership alone is not enough. It must be decolonized. Decolonized thought leadership is a major driver towards the African dream, the African promised land. Those are the 3 pillars. Let me dramatize their importance. You all know that for us to succeed as Africans, we must beneficiate, we must add value. We can't be selling raw copper, raw diamonds, and raw gold. We must be selling catalytic converters from our platinum. We must be selling rings from our diamonds, jewelry from our diamonds. We must be producing cars and producing computers, producing planes. Now, you can't do that if you are not decolonized. You can't do that if you don't have the confidence as an African. The African engineer must have self-belief, must have confidence that I can design a computer. I, as an African, can design a car. I, as an African, I can design a plane. But more importantly, I can build it. I'm not talking about assembling Mercedes-Benz, assembling BMW, assembling Toyota. No! Designing the Ubuntu computer, designing the Ubuntu car, the UJ aeroplane. If you don't have a decolonized mind, you can't think like that. You're like, no, UJ can't do this, that's for MIT. UJ can't do, that's for Caltech. UJ can't, that's for London School of Economics, that's for Imperial College. Because you have no confidence. Self-confidence tells you, if Bill Gates can do it, I can do it as well. Design software, build software, design a car. So the engineer himself, the curriculum you have must empower you to design a plane. Does it? Or the assumption is the plane will come from Japan, will maintain the plane. The car will come from Japan, will maintain the car. We want to design the car. We want to build the car. A decolonized curricula will allow you to do that. Decolonized entrepreneurial spirit. And the African government must be decolonized as well. Does the government have confidence in its own engineers? The private sector must be decolonized. Are they putting money into manufacturing cars? So decolonization is important in the university, in the private sector, in government. Do you have confidence in local designs? Do you have confidence in local manufacturing? The consumer. Let's come to you, the consumer. When the TV says made in Mpumalanga by a UJ student, are you going to buy that TV? When it says made in Dotito in Cholocho, you like Sony, you like Philip, you like Samsung, you like LG, you are a victim of colonial mentality. You are a victim of mental slavery. Why can't you support your own product? Made in Dotito, buy made in Dotito. Made in Cholocho, buy made in Cholocho. Made in Kumasi, buy made in Kumasi. Guess what, guys and ladies? Japan after the Second World War, Toyota was horrible. Nissan was like Zhejiang. No one wanted to touch Toyota. No one wanted to touch Honda or Mitsubishi. But the Japanese had self-confidence, said, "Oh, we'll buy our own products." They bought Toyota. In Europe, in Africa, people were buying Mercedes-Benz, were buying European cars. No one would touch a Japanese product. But over time, starting with the local market of the Japanese, Asian market, Toyota, Sony, Mitsubishi, Honda became the brands by being supported by their own people. So the Ubuntu car, the Ubuntu cell phone, the UJ aeroplane eventually will become a superstar brand if you support it.
Elon is a great guy. He's one of our geniuses, and we have to protect our geniuses. We have to take care of our geniuses. There aren't too many of them. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No. Nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon. That's great.
We must write. I wanted to emphasize that point. Great Zimbabwe and the pyramids. It's very important that as engineers, we know that in our history, we're great engineers, great physicists. Go and look at the physics and engineering required to build the great Zimbabwe. How you can build that structure, the geophysics, the dynamics, the fast Fourier series applied in great Zimbabwe, applied in the pyramids. It's very important for us to know that in our history, once upon a time, we were successful engineers. It gives us confidence. So it's important that we know that we built the pyramids with black Nubians, not these current Arabs in Egypt. We love them, but the people who built the pyramids were black Nubians. It's very important. It gives you confidence that once upon a time, I was a rock star engineer, so I can do it today.
Now, from the video you've just seen, you can agree with me that Arthur is majorly calling upon African countries to unite. He has talked about how rich Africa is in resources, but we are still poor. Now, for instance, we have different countries in Africa that export raw gold. We also have this crude oil. We have timber. But what Arthur Mutambara has talked of is, why can't Africa just join hands and make use of their resources locally? He is majorly talking about African countries becoming self-sufficient from their resources before they can even export them to other countries. Now, for Africa to make use of their resources, we actually have to get a good refinery or other processing plant for all of our resources. And that can only happen if we unite and support each other. Africa is a rich continent, because in another video that I did, we heard that Louis Farrakhan say that the United States, or rather just Europe, they depend on Africa because most of the products they are consuming in Europe comes from Africa. Now you imagine times where Africa chooses to become self-sufficient, that they consume what they are producing and let them help themselves first before it can be exported. Just what Muammar Gaddafi was fighting for. Like in Libya, nobody was allowed to be homeless. He went ahead, and all the revenue that was being generated from their resources, they built hospitals. They made sure that Libya is self-sufficient as a country. And that's why he was assassinated. Because the Western countries don't want that. Africa should fight hard to get free from these external controls. Another thing they talked of is how Africa don't appreciate their engineers, their doctors, their teachers. Now, I'll tell you something. Like, for instance, we get somebody, just a student, who comes forward and he can make this something. A very, very good student. Now, he is good at this, let's say, robotics. The only thing you'll hear, or rather the next thing you'll hear from the country, or rather from the government, is that this student has been sponsored by this country from Europe, and now this student has been flown to this country to further his studies. Now, that's the last thing you'll hear. You'll never hear that this student came back to his mother country and benefited his country from his talent. Because once he is taken from that country, or rather taken to Europe, they will brainwash him and convince him to switch his nationality. And that's something our countries don't fight. Why can't we just give first privileges to our engineers, to our architects? You've seen in the video how Trump protects Elon Musk, because they know what Elon Musk is capable of doing. And why can't our government do the same for our people? Why can't they do the same? African countries really defy unity, as if unity is the cause to why we are having fallouts within our countries. They treat unity as a bad thing instead of embracing unity. Well, if only they could follow the lead of Ibrahim Traore. What he has done for Burkina Faso is massive than what our leaders, our African leaders, has done for our countries. Let's embrace change, let's embrace unity, and let's fight these external powers so that we can be free, because currently we are not free. Africa as a country, as a continent, we are not free. The only country in Africa that's gaining its independence, free from external controls and external powers, and that external powers are the Westerners, it's Burkina Faso. And it's because of their president, Captain Ibrahim Traore. A president who doesn't give a damn about these Western people. He only cares about his country and the well-being of his country and the people of that country. What are our leaders doing? Our leaders are afraid. They are ashamed of doing what's right for their country. Well, tell me what you think in the comment section about this video. And if you found this video to be educating or rather interesting, please share it to your loved ones, your friends, Remember to subscribe to my channel if you're yet to subscribe, like and comment. I'm your host Larry, and until we meet again in my next video, let's embrace love and unity.